My neighbor's wife was screaming in her pajamas. My neighbor was threatening to punch the tow truck driver, and I was just standing there, sipping coffee, watching their truck get hauled out of my driveway. But that morning's showdown didn't come out of nowhere. It was the boiling point of weeks of suburban madness. Let me back up. When we first moved into our house, I thought we'd finally made it. The neighborhood was quiet, the lawns perfectly trimmed, and the driveway clean, wide, and ours. I imagined barbecues, family time, and peaceful mornings. But the peace didn't last long. The first week, I opened my front door and nearly dropped my coffee. A huge, black, lifted truck was sitting in the middle of our driveway. Not on the street, not at the curb, in my driveway. I thought maybe it was a mistake, maybe a delivery, maybe construction. I walked around, looked for a note. Nothing. And that's when I saw them, my new neighbors. Husband and wife, leaning against their porch, watching me like it was totally normal. I waved politely and said, "Hey, just wondering if you knew there's a truck in my driveway?" The guy smirked. "Yeah, that's mine. Just easier to park here. Hope you don't mind." Easier to park here. I laughed nervously, thinking he was joking, but he wasn't. His wife chewed her gum and said, "It's just a driveway. Relax." That was red flag number one. At first, I let it go. Maybe they were in a rush, maybe it wouldn't happen again, but it did. Over and over, not just the truck, soon the Jeep, then a motorcycle. My driveway looked like a free parking lot. Every time I try to be polite, notes on the windshield, a calm knock on their door, even friendly small talk. "Hey, could you guys move your vehicles? We need the driveway clear." Every time, they acted like I was the problem. The smirk, the gum chewing, the "chill out, it's not a big deal." Meanwhile, my family couldn't even park in our own driveway. One night, we came home late with a sleeping baby in the backseat, and sure enough, our driveway was packed. Truck, Jeep, and motorcycle, not even room to squeeze in. I had to park on the street, carry my daughter across the lawn in the dark, tripping over sprinklers, while my neighbor's vehicle sat comfortably in my space. That night, my patience snapped. I went to the HOA. They shrugged. "We'll send them a notice." Nothing changed. I called non-emergency police. They told me it was a civil matter. I even tried catching them outside, but every conversation ended the same. Smirks, dismissals, sometimes flat out ignoring me. I started to feel trapped in my own home, like my driveway didn't even belong to me anymore. Then one morning, after another sleepless night of their truck rumbling into my driveway at 1 a.m., I made a decision. I wasn't going to ask anymore. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to take back what was mine. I installed cameras, documented every incident, checked the HOA bylaws, called towing companies, asking questions, learning my rights. And the next time that black lifted truck blocked my driveway, I was ready. That night, I stood at my window, watching their truck parked bold and smug in my driveway. I wasn't angry anymore. I was calm, almost excited, because I knew exactly what I was going to do next. And that, my friends, is how the suburban war officially began. The tow truck backed into my driveway at sunrise, its engine rumbling like justice on wheels. My neighbor came running out barefoot, his wife screaming in her pajamas, and I just stood there, with my coffee, watching their truck get hauled out of my driveway. But that morning's showdown didn't come out of nowhere. It was the boiling point of weeks of suburban madness. Let me back up. The night before I had finally reached my breaking point, their truck sat in my driveway like a throne, headlights reflecting into my living room. Instead of rage, I felt calm. I had done my homework. Cameras installed, photos collected, HOA bylaws printed, and most importantly, I had the towing company on speed dial. At dawn, I made the call. Yeah, I've got an unauthorized vehicle blocking my driveway again. It's a black lifted truck. Can you send someone out? The driver's voice was casual, almost amused. We'll be there in 20. And just like that, the cavalry was on its way. The tow truck's lights flashed across the street as it pulled up, and I stood by my window, mug in hand, pretending it was just another morning. The driver hopped out, hooked the massive truck, and started lifting. That's when the chaos erupted. My neighbor's door slammed open. He came stumbling out barefoot, hair a mess, shouting, "Hey, what the—" His wife followed, screaming like the world was ending, pointing at the tow driver, then at me. I calmly stepped outside. "Morning. That's my driveway. Your truck's being towed." Simple as that. He turned red, fists clenched. "You can't do this." I pointed at the sign the tow driver had placed on his windshield. Actually, I can, and I did. The whole neighborhood started gathering, drawn by the shouting. Curtains moved, phones came out, people whispered. It wasn't just my fight anymore. It was a show. The truck was gone in minutes, and my neighbor stood in the middle of the street, barefoot, humiliated, screaming about lawsuits. His wife swore they'd make us pay. But the truth is, they were already paying. Daily storage fees at the impound lot weren't cheap. Of course, they didn't stop there. A few days later, I found a nasty note on my door. Then a false complaint filed with the HOA, claiming I was harassing them. But I was ready. I handed over video footage, every truck, every night, every blocked driveway. The HOA couldn't ignore it anymore. At the next meeting, the board sided with me. My neighbors were slapped with fines. Their false complaint backfired spectacularly. The humiliation hit hard. They stopped parking in my driveway, but their bitterness only grew. Cops were called once after another screaming match, but even the officers laughed when they saw the footage. Eventually, the truck disappeared for good. Whether sold, repossessed, or just too expensive to keep paying fines on, I didn't care. All I knew was that my driveway was finally mine again. These days, I sip coffee on my porch in peace. Sometimes my neighbors still glare across the street, but they don't say a word. Not after what happened. Because in the suburbs, there is one rule everyone learns sooner or later. Don't start a driveway war you can't win. And that was just the first battle. Believe it or not, what happened next on our street made this look like child's play. But that's a story for another day.